Thank you so much once again, the people of Africa. Thank you so much, the people of America. And thank you so much, the people of the world. I am so grateful to be here once again. Thank you for keeping me in this seat. Thank you for always making things possible for me to be able to stare at this camera and talk to you guys. Thank you all for subscribing. Today, we are going to be discussing about the UN Summit. And our topic is African leaders are speaking at the UN Summit. When we come back, I'm going to tell you on Thursday, few presidents who spoke and what it means to Africans and what they are trying to portray. We will discuss it in detail when we come back and what African leaders need to do. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you at the other side. Thank you once again. I am back to discuss the topic African leaders are speaking at the UN Summit. As I told you guys, we are going to be discussing in detail about what it means for them speaking yesterday. That was yesterday, Thursday, and about what it means to Africans and what they were trying to portray. And these are the things we have been speaking several years and now. So on the third day of the UN Summit, African leaders spoke, and the 54 African countries estimated they need $100 billion annually to support the continent for the next 3 years. This is what our leaders said that they need. They say they need $100 billion to be able to support the continent for the next 3 years. Why? Because of the COVID-19 impact on African countries. It has impacted the whole world. It has impacted the economies of great countries like America. Unemployment has plunged to the lowest in America. This is one of the disasters that has ever been experienced in the world because of COVID-19. We all understand it is not a good feeling, and you know it impacts more in smaller countries like Africa, where we are divided into smaller countries, unlike United States of America, which is a huge country. We are so much impacted, and the reason is that we don't have the economy that can still sustain us, even though United States of America is facing a lot of challenges, but they have a stronger economy that is making them sustainable to be able to operate. But in Africa, we do not. Why? Because we rely on these countries. Imports comes from these countries. So in whatever challenging situations, these big countries still gain from Africa. Big countries such as America, United Kingdom, Canada, New Zealand, China, to mention but few of them here. But these African country leaders, the question I will put is that, do we always have to come to UN Summit in a way that we are begging for something? This is the reason why the world is taking Africa for granted. It's so disastrous, and I'm going to tell you, 3 of them spoke. 3 of them spoke. Yesterday I listened. Today I didn't follow, but 3 of them spoke. They pointed out that it is the 100 million they are seeking. It is a fraction of what some countries are using to curb the COVID-19 period. That's why they also say that it is just a fraction. But the question I asked is that if it is a fraction of what some countries are using, why is it that we are not able to provide it on our own? We agree that economies are not the same, like I just said. But there are certain things our leaders are not doing that is making us to persistently beg us to the world. And this is the reason why the world is taking African continent. Countries such as China, the West, take African countries for granted. Because all the time, our leaders come in and the language they speak is either seeking or begging for money. President Theodora Obiang of Equatorial Guinea, yesterday he said, the victor of the World War II had conflicting interests, but were able to place their salvation of the world above their own interest. This his speech meant the Second World War II, where countries got united and fought against the German regime and prevailed. This was then. They all put their interest and they were able to unite and do something. This is what I said as one solution in one of my videos I spoke about. African leaders, you just, Obiang Theodora of Equatorial Guinea, you just spoke. Have African leaders sit down to put your interest, your individual interest aside and come together to form an institution that will allow you to not come to UN and be begging for $100 billion for African continent. You have not put your individual interest aside to fight for the salvation of Africa. You have not, but you just quoted it. This leader just said it, that they had conflicting issues. That's the victors had conflicting issues, but they were able to put it aside. But African leaders, you are not able to put your conflicting issues aside and come together, unite, and form institutions, stronger institutions, financial institutions, support institutions that can take care of Africa. You are not. Tell me. Even with the ECOWAS, the AU that we have, tell me what we have done. African Development Bank is there. What have we put inside? But we come here and we speak about seeking support from countries who have channeled their resources together. European Union, they have institutions that help most of the country. Greece was in a disastrous situation. Look at what they did for Greece. Can Africa do that for a single country? Why? Because our leaders are not putting importance to the survival of the continent. Our leaders are not. If we are, by now we should have had stronger institutions that can help develop Africa. $100 billion would not have been a problem for our countries to be seeking, for African continent to be seeking from the US summit to help us curb COVID-19. Have we ever thought of that? We've never thought of this. My question is that what has African leaders done to always stop relying on the West? Have we placed our individual interests for the salvation of African continent? No, we have not. Alassane Ouattara of Cote d'Ivoire call on all African parties to take bolder measures. Who are African partners? He called on African partners to take bolder measures. Who are African partners? African partners are who? One, African part as the private lenders and investors who invest in Africa. And most of them, where are they coming from? They are coming from the West. They are coming from the West. Second, our partners, main institutional partners, are IMF, International Monetary Fund. This is an organization that has continually given African leaders with a higher interest rate than the West. Like Arikana said, they give interest rate to America, to Western countries such as America, UK, at a minimal interest, and give African leaders African countries at the highest interest to pay back the loans they've been given. Why? They are giving to countries that doesn't need such interest. They're giving it to countries that are struggling to survive. Why? Because the world, who are controlling this IMF and the World Bank, these are our partners, are putting us into situations like that to be able to continuously control us. They come out with programs, give us money and tell us we are going to pay at a higher interest. Have we ever questioned ourselves that? So if African leaders, we are questioning ourselves on the basis of what I'm saying, then we should be able to sit down and say, you know what, enough of the 54 African countries, let us enhance ourselves by coming together and forming a stronger institution, financial institution, that we can all put our individual contribution whilst putting our individual interest for the salvation of Africa, so that in case of things like this, we are able to survive on our own. Then it makes the West to be able to respect us. In case of developmental project, we are able to dip our hand. For instance, if Equatorial Guinea needs money, Equatorial Guinea can borrow from this particular institution at a lower rate to be able to solve its infrastructural problem and developmental problem. Have we ever thought of this? The only thing we know would come to summit and be begging. Look at one time at a point at the White House, African leaders were being driven like fowls. They say, go away, we don't need you here. Go away. It was so shameful. Haven't we thought about all these things? We come to the summit, this is what we are saying. This is what we are saying. You know, it's so disturbing to hear your leaders doing this when you are sitting down knowing that this is what they are supposed to do. Gabon President Ali Bongo Ondimba, he said, reforms of Bretton Woods institutions like IMF and World Bank might be needed to usher in a fairer international order. You see what I'm talking about? 3 of them have spoken, and whatever come out of them is to beg, request. Bretton Woods institutions are institutions that we have continued to rely on. IMF is a Bretton Woods institution. We have relied on these institutions for so many years. What have we learned from it? Do we want to continue to be wobbling at the feet of these Western countries? When under normal circumstances we have resources that we can do this, why can't each and every country decide that we have a certain percentage? African Development Bank is being established. Why can't you enhance African Development Bank to put more financial resources yearly? A certain percentage of every country's GDP goes into this institution, so that anytime a country is in a dire trouble for any infrastructure problem, you can rely on and borrow money from this institution at a lower rate than borrowing at IMF, where you are being given a higher rate, and lower rate is given to the West countries who don't need it. They don't even need that money. Have we ever thought of this? Dr. Arikana mentioned this. Have we listened to her? It is not. But every year when African leaders come to UN summit, this is the type of language we speak, begging and begging and begging. And the most disturbing part of it is that some of these loans are being taken and it is not used appropriately, misapplied. Misappropriation of these loans has not helped any African country. We have persistently taken financial assistance from these countries. Tell us how far it has brought us. Nothing. All the time. COVID-19 is now being used as another tool to seek for financial assistance from these international institutions and Bretton Woods institutions. If we had put ourselves together if we had put our continent financial institutions together and we are able to contribute well, we won't come and be speaking this language over $100 billion. Like one of you mentioned, that is just a fraction of what some of the countries use. It's a very disturbing to even say that. There is just a fraction. If it is a fraction, why is it that African continent cannot provide this for our African countries? I think if we are putting ourselves together, this 100 billion that we are seeking from Bretton Woods institutions and partners would have we wouldn't have African Development Bank could have given that money out to continent of Africa so that we can use for our own development. And anything every country has picked, we pay percentage back to the and this we use for further developmental projects in the continent. We don't do this. We come and we just sit down. This is what we do. Has it come to a point that we have to come to the realization that we don't more need this because it doesn't help us, it kills us. It kills us a lot. That is why China has taken opportunity to put more difficult terms of loans in Africa. African continent will continue to struggle. But my point is that where are our leaders? Are we seeing? Are we thinking? Are we analyzing? Are we looking for the future of the development of Africa? If we are, we don't need to be begging for all this because we are paying them back. Tell me one of the institutions, one COVID-19 struck, and they know that it's going to affect, it has affected the whole world, and African countries are going to be impacted more. Tell me which of the institutions say we are forgiving you your loans, or we are cutting the interest rate we've given you. Even private investors who are from the West, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. They still want to take their money. And they don't want any suspension of repayment of loan because it is defined as a default. That can have a consequential impact on the economy of Africa. Have we thought of that? We have not thought of that. Ouattara mentioned that I mentioned that fight against COVID-19 and his economic impact has represented 5% of his country's GDP. 5% of his country's GDP. And every country and community in the world is impacted. It's not only. So that means every country's GDP has been impacted. But tell me how many Western countries, even those who we define them as poor, tell me how many of them have run out to come and beg, make speeches like this that beg for money. No country have done that. Only African leaders are doing that. You know why? Europe, they have an institution. European Union, they have a stronger institution ties that they are able to establish themselves and they're able to help their countries. Asia, they have stronger institutions. Only Africa that we have to continuously be begging. Our leaders do that. When are we going to stop this? This was yesterday. This was what they did. Put your individual interest aside and come together and do the most simple but important things. It is not difficult for the 54 countries of Africa to decide that in the next 10 years we want to have $3 trillion in African Development Bank. It is not difficult because you are going to be paying like European countries do. Pay money according to the GDP of each country. And I bet you by the next 5-10 years, African Development Bank is going to be one of the banks in Africa that can take care of Africa without any problem. But you know why? All of you 54 countries, you have individual interest. Very strong individual interest that you have never bothered to come together and seek the salvation of Africa, putting your citizens into more jeopardy, depriving your citizens of what they are supposed to have, leading them to be running to the West, doing things and continuously swim into poverty and starvation. That is the problem of our African leaders. These three people spoke, and I'm telling you guys, my viewers, a lot of them are coming to speak the same language. By the end of this summer, all of them will be speaking the same language. It is unfortunate that we have leaders like this. What you guys need to do, establish institutions where in case of a circumstances like that, you are able to take care of yourself. Start it. African leaders, we the young ones, I challenge you, start it. Enhance African Development Bank. That's what you should do. Train and allow young leaders in Africa who are able to think better. Trying to allow African leaders, young leaders, to take leadership positions, strengthen the institutions. Remember when Obama visited Africa, more specifically in Ghana, he said what? A country can function well when you have stronger institutions. It means Africa can function well when we have stronger institutions in Africa to be able to deal with some of these problems. You sit down and reason about it. You need to take a proactive action instead of coming to UN summit and be pleading and begging for $100 billion for the next 3 years to sustain and help Africa to grow. Of course, seek for it now. But don't forget, you'll be paying back the money. But what are you doing from now after this COVID-19 has struck and has given every country a lesson about? Tell me, what are your strategies to be able to avoid another catastrophic circumstances like this in the world, so that you don't rely on the West, rely on yourself as African leaders? I pray for you guys. I hope that when the young ones have started crying now, have started talking to you, because you know why? Young ones have learned. Give young ones the chance. Listen to them. Sit down and question yourself, because the cry of the young ones are the voice of your citizens. It is very important for you guys to take proactive actions so that you can slowly marinate out yourselves out of begging from Bretton Woods institutions. My leaders, I challenge all of you to do something better. And thank you this evening, my viewers. I'll be giving you more information about this, our leaders. I'll give information in case there's anything from the UN summit, so that all of you will know what they are talking about. But I bet you they are going to be singing the same song and dancing the same rhythm. I'm telling you. Please kindly share this video. Kindly subscribe, like it, and comment. No matter how your comment, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to respond to every comment. But our leaders, you need to do better than this. Thank you for loving this channel. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to represent ATY TV channel. This is a channel that seeks for your voice. This is a channel that listens to your voice. This is a channel that discusses your voice. And thank you, my viewers. See you in my next video. Bye-bye.